Hello guys, and welcome back to another MCreator procedure tutorial. So today what we're going to be looking at is a pathfinding block that can be found under the entity procedures actions, and then if you scroll down a little bit, there is near the bottom one that says attempt to make event/target entity find path and move to X, Y, and Z with speed factor of 1. So what this block allows you to do is basically override entities pathfinding. This will work with any living entity. Obviously not the player, but you can do things like vanilla entities or other entities of that matter, even ones from other mods if you can somehow manage to test for that particular entity. With that being said, the X, Y, and Z is the position where the entity should be trying to go, and the speed factor, by default, it will just use the entity's speed factor of 1, which will keep it consistent of what they would normally be walking at if they were just walking normally. So if you set this to 2 or whatever, it will be basically 2 times as fast, so it depends on how fast you want them to move there. And the event/target entity will allow you to select what kind of entity that should be selected. So you can use this with more complex procedures that might need to get a nearest entity or something like that. You can basically swap this out with whatever you need for that. All right, so how can this be useful and what could basically be done with it? Well, there's just a lot of things that can be done with it. If you wanted to technically have an entity go to a specific block that had an anchor of some other entity, or another entity go to, say, for example, the player or away from the player or something like that, you can always use this block to control where the entity is going. So in this case, I do have an example set up already that will make the entities near the player go away from the player. So this will work for pretty much every entity. So let's go ahead and pop that procedure open and kind of see what's going on here. So this script is pretty compact. There's a lot going on here, I can see that, but I will cover the tags first. I do have a tag covering all of the different types of entity types. So basically all of these different types of entities. You can also do living entity if you wanted to, and that will basically cover pretty much every entity. But if you want to add specific mod support, like maybe certain mods might not want to add support, you probably want to do something more specific for what kind of entities should have this mechanic. Again, this is just a tutorial of how this avoid system works, but just some ideas, basically what's going on. So use tags when you can, I guess I'm trying to say. All right, so we have PX, PY, and PZ. These are your player coordinates that we're going to be using for the current entity. We're running this on a on-player tick update. So basically anytime that the player ticks, we're going to be getting the player coordinates. And then what we're going to be doing is we're going to be running the player coordinates from basically searching for any entities within a 16 block area, cube size of 16. So I'm not sure if that's radius or I think it's square. So it's probably, I think it's about 16 blocks, 8 blocks in distance fully, I think about that distance. I'm not sure. And anyhow, we're getting the position of the entity of the player, and then what we're doing is every time that it comes across of entity iterator, we're going to use a new set of variables, which is going to be EX, EY, and EZ for entity X, entity Y, and entity Z. We're getting the iterator position of that location, which is again what every entity that's nearby. And then what we're doing is we're checking if the entity is not a player. This should catch any potential bugs trying to pathfind a player around. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use our entity tag that we had created under our tags here. And we're just testing for every other entity here. And I just have it set to avoid. So this is basically the variable name, and that's the namespace. And then there's a colon directly between the two. So right between there, there's a colon there. And then what we're doing is we're going to be calculating the opposite direction where the entity should be going. So this is the formula for X, direction Y, and direction Z. You might notice that we're keeping the Y position the same as our entity iterator position. This just makes it a little bit more smoother when they're running away. And then we're using the multiply to make it a little bit more smoother as well. And we're getting the position of the entity, subtracting that by the position of the player. And we're also getting the entity position and then adding that particular value. So basically what it's doing is, in short, it just makes the entity go the opposite direction from the player. So that's the best way I can explain what this formula does. So this exact pattern will do that. And then what we're doing is we're just using the attempt to make entity iterator, find path and move to, and then we're using our direction X, direction Y, and direction Z values. And we're just setting it to 2 so you can kind of see what it's going to be doing when they're running around and what speed 2 actually does, because I can see people probably setting this to a really high number and going, where did the entity go? So we'll be taking a look at what the value with 2 is. So yeah, that's basically all there is to this particular procedure. We'll pop in game now and give it a quick test. All right, so I am on a horse. As you can see, it's not affecting the horse directly because we are on it, so we can still control it, and that's pretty good. It's also a little bit faster means of transportation, and I am in survival, so you'll be able to kind of see what's going on here. So as we get close to the pig, you can see he kind of just like books it away from us, and you can see that he's going the opposite direction from our position. So he's basically going anywhere but, and this works for other entities too, like cows. And if we get off the horse is going to go that way. Don't ask how long it actually took me to try taming this, because I was running around quite a while trying to tame this horse up and just spawned in a saddle. But yeah, you can kind of figure out what's going on here. Obviously if it gets into the water, it's a little bit easier to catch, but yeah, overall, that's basically what the script does. It just makes the entity go to a position that is basically not where its normal pathfinding would normally go. So hopefully this made a little bit of sense. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe, comment down below, rate the video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. Peace out.